You know that feeling when you're driving in heavy traffic
Oh, yeah.
and you suddenly realize you've been gripping the steering wheel so hard that your knuckles are actually turning white?
Like you're physically trying to force the car forward just by tensing your muscles.
Yes, exactly.
Mhm.
And I feel like we live our entire lives like that nowadays. We have the 5-year plan, we have the vision board, the daily optimization apps.
The illusion of control, we're all deeply invested in it.
Right. We are constantly swimming upstream, basically convinced that if we just kick harder, the river is going to change its direction.
But the river doesn't care how hard you kick.
It really doesn't. And that is exactly what we're getting into today.
Mm.
Welcome to our deep dive, where we are looking at a set of essays that argues this exact grip, this constant exhausting effort to just make things happen, is actually the root of all our misery.
It's a really provocative idea, isn't it? The notion that your effort itself is the problem.
It's completely backward to how we're raised. So today we're diving into a collection of writings titled 7 Essays on the Way of Nature.
Or, in the original Chinese, Ziran Zidao.
Right, written by an author named Su Feng between 2018 and 2023.
And our mission today is to really unpack this concept of the way of nature. Because Wu Feng basically equates this to God's way, or a cosmic operating system.
And it is not just your standard, take a bubble bath and relax kind of advice.
Far from it.
Yeah, this is a philosophical sledgehammer. He says there's a pre-written program for the universe, and if you just run the program, you get peace and health,
But if you try to hack the code,
which is what pretty much all modern humans do.
exactly, if you hack the code, you get bugs,
Yeah.
you get disease, you get poverty, and just general chaos.
So we're going to cover the philosophy, the actual practical, how to eat, sleep, and supposedly not plan anything.
Mm?
And then we'll get into his much more radical takes on society, marriage, and laws.
The computer analogy you just mentioned is really helpful, I think, because the text itself can get pretty metaphysical at times.
Yeah, it does.
He essentially argues for a strict binary outcome. It's almost mathematical. You are either running the software as intended, flowing with it, or you are resisting it and crashing the system.
And he actually measures this, right? Like he brings in the Hawkins energy scale to quantify it.
He does, yeah.
Now, I've heard of this scale. It's about vibration levels, which I have to be honest, usually sounds a little woo-woo to me.
I mean, it can definitely sound that way, but if you think of it less as magic and more as an index of emotional states, it makes sense in his framework.
Okay, so how does it work?
He argues that when you align perfectly with the way of nature, your frequency naturally rests at 540 or above on this scale.
And 540 means what exactly?
It's the level of unconditional joy, unconditional love, what the author actually refers to as heaven.
Heaven is a state of being, not a place in the clouds.
Precisely. But the moment you start resisting, so the moment you start worrying about your mortgage or scheming for a promotion or fighting your reality, your frequency drops below 200.
Which is the danger zone.
Right. Below 200 is the level of primal survival. It's animalistic. And he calls that state hell.
So hell isn't a fiery pit you go to when you die. It is a state of mind you enter when you try to force a cucumber to be a tomato.
Yes. That is one of his most central and honestly jarring metaphors. It's where the rubber really meets the road with his philosophy.
Break the cucumber thing down for us.
Well, he is a very strict determinist. He says, look at a garden. A cucumber is a cucumber. A tomato is a tomato.
Sure.
No matter how much you educate that cucumber, no matter how hard it works, no matter how many motivational seminars it attends, it is never going to be a tomato.
That is a really tough pill to swallow for a Western audience, I think.
Oh, absolutely.
Because if you're listening to this right now, you were probably raised on the idea that you can be anything you want to be if you just work hard enough.
Yeah.
And this author is explicitly saying, no, you can't.
It creates a lot of friction for us culturally. But Shufang argues that the suffering in life doesn't come from being a cucumber.
It comes from wanting to be the tomato.
Exactly. The suffering is the gap between what you are and what you are trying to force yourself to be. He uses a bee colony as another example of this.
Right, the queen bee and the worker bees.
Yeah. In a hive, the queen is born the queen. The worker is born the worker. There was no democratic election.
No campaign strategy.
No upward mobility. They just are what they are. And because they completely accept their biological script, the colony thrives. It survives.
So if I'm hearing this right, the way of nature is about total surrender to whatever role the universe assigned you, which, I don't know, it feels a bit disempowering. Do we just give up?
That is the most common reaction, but he would argue it's actually the complete opposite of giving up. It's about peak efficiency.
Efficiency, how so?
If you are born to be a beggar, his advice is to be a beggar with peace of mind. If you're born to be a president, be a president.
To just play your role.
Right. The chaos only starts when the beggar tries to claw his way into the presidency, or when the president tries to renounce everything and live like a monk. It's about playing the hand you were dealt without trying to bluff.
Okay, let's say I buy into this. Let's say I accept I am a cucumber.
Right.
How do I actually live my daily life? Because just saying be yourself is pretty vague. But the source text actually gives some very specific, rigid instructions.
It really does. It's a highly structured philosophy.
And some of these rules are basically an anti-self-help list. Do not make plans, do not set goals, do not seek success.
Which goes against every business book ever written.
Exactly. So how do we actually do this?
He provides a 16-character formula for navigating life. It breaks down into 4 main tillers, and we should really take these apart one by one because this is the practical manual for the whole philosophy.
Let's do it. What's the first pillar?
The first is sui yubukyu, which translates roughly to follow the situation.
Follow the situation. Unpack that for us.
It means radical acceptance of your immediate material reality. So if you live in a tiny 1-bedroom apartment, you do not spend your evenings scrolling through real estate listings fantasizing about a mansion.
If you ride a bike to work, you don't sit at the stoplight resenting the guy in the BMW next to you.
Precisely. It's about entirely eliminating the psychological gap between where you currently are and where society says you should be.
So it's fundamentally about killing envy.
Yes. Envy is the warning siren that you are actively rejecting your cosmic program.
Wow, okay. And the second pillar?
The second is sui wan shen ying, which means follow connections or follow fate. And this applies heavily to relationships and to your own biology.
This was the part about not chasing people.
Right. If a friendship naturally fades out, you just let it go. You don't try to force people to stay in your life. But he takes it to a physical level, too.
Like accepting your body.
Exactly. If you are a short person, stop wishing you were tall. If you were born in one specific country, stop obsessing over moving to another one. Accept your avatar.
That's a great way to phrase it. Accept your avatar. You don't boot up a video game and spend the entire time being furious that you didn't pick a different character class. You just play the game.
You just play the hand.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Play the character you picked. What is the third pillar?
The third is sui jing wu wei, which is follow nature. This is what we call the don't force a tiger to eat grass rule.
Meaning recognize the intrinsic nature of things.
Yes, including yourself. Don't try to change the fundamental nature of anything. A bird flies, a worm digs. If you aren't naturally a diamond drill, don't try to work on porcelain.
Stay in your lane, essentially.
Yes.
But then we get to the fourth pillar, and this one seemed a little contradictory to me when I read it.
Oh, the opportunity one?
Yeah. Suji Pinghei, follow opportunity. That sounds like an active pursuit to me. I thought we were supposed to plan or chase anything.
It is active, but it is strictly reactive, and that is a crucial distinction.
Reactive. Explain that.
It means if an opportunity clearly and effortlessly presents itself, like the ball is thrown right at your chest, you catch it. You strike while the iron is hot.
So if a great job offer just drops into your inbox, or romance naturally sparks without you forcing it, you act on it immediately.
Right. You don't hesitate.
But you don't go running up into the stands trying to snatch a ball that wasn't thrown to you.
Exactly. If no opportunity is presenting itself, you do absolutely nothing. You wait, you relax, you don't run around networking and hustling, trying to manufacture a moment out of thin air.
And that is the hardest part for people today, the waiting. We feel like if we aren't constantly moving and hustling, we are falling behind.
We equate stillness with failure. And to illustrate why this patience is so vital, Su Efeng uses the corn analogy, which I think is one of the strongest images in the entire text.
I really like this one. He says it takes roughly 100 days for corn to go from a seed in the ground to a harvestable crop.
Right. And you cannot stand in the field and yell at the corn to make it mature in 50 days.
You can't pull on the stalk to stretch it out.
It just kills the plant. He applies this directly to wealth and success. He says that get-rich-quick schemes, whether that's high-risk day trading, gambling, reckless speculation, are all just attempts to cheat that 100-day cycle.
You are trying to hack the timeline of the universe.
And because it fundamentally violates the natural rhythm, his argument is that even if you do get the money, it will end up destroying you.
Because you haven't built the foundation.
Right. You haven't grown the stock strong enough to actually hold the weight of that wealth. So the strict instruction is plant the seed, do your daily work, and then just wait.
So we have all this personal advice. Eat when you're hungry, sleep when you're tired, don't force the corn to grow. And honestly, It sounds very peaceful.
It's very zen.
It is. But then, and this happens quite abruptly in the essays, he suddenly zooms out. And the text shifts from this personal Zen philosophy into a radical social critique.
He really does not hold back when it comes to human civilization.
No, he doesn't. He basically argues that almost everything we have built as a society, our laws, our governments, the institution of marriage, is a direct violation of the way of nature.
And this is usually where people either get totally on board or jump off the ship entirely.
Right. And just to be clear for everyone listening, we are impartially breaking down what the author wrote here. We are not taking a stance on whether society should abolish its laws.
We are just reporting the philosophy.
Exactly. So he says nature has no police, and therefore humans shouldn't either.
That is the crux of it. He looks at the natural world, plants, animals, planets, orbiting stars, and he sees perfect, harmonious order without any legislation. There are no police in the forest. There are no lawyers in the ocean. No prisons.
So he concludes that human laws are basically artificial prisons.
Yes. He argues that the more a government tries to regulate things, the more it dictates how you build a house or who you can trade with or where you can travel, the further humanity drifts from the natural program.
Sounds a bit like pure anarchy.
Or perhaps pure Taoism. He isn't saying there should be violent chaos. He is saying that true order has to be internal. It cannot be imposed from the outside by a state.
He even calls nations high walls.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes. He points out that migratory birds can fly across continents wherever they want, entirely free, but humans, the supposedly advanced species, are trapped by passports and borders and visas.
He sees civilization as a devolution. Like we are actually less free than a wild goose.
That's his exact point.
I get the bird metaphor, I really do. But humans aren't geese. We steal things from each other. We hurt each other. We kind of need some rules.
And his counter-argument to that is that we only do those destructive things because we are trapped in these artificial high-pressure structures.
The pressure cooker makes us act out.
Right. But if you think his take on the government is radical, his stance on marriage is even spicier.
Yeah, let's get into this. He essentially says that marriage is completely unnatural.
He views it as a forcible binding. He argues that in nature, emotional and physical connection is completely fluid. Animals mate, they separate, flocks come together, and they disperse based on the season.
But a marriage contract forces two people to stay locked together even when their internal seasons have completely changed.
And he uses a very specific traditional phrase to describe what happens when you force that binding.
Right, the red apricot.
Yes. The idiom is a red apricot leaning over the wall. It is a famous piece of Chinese poetic imagery that actually refers to a wife having an affair.
It sounds so lovely and botanical, but it literally just means cheating on your spouse.
It does. But his philosophical point with the idiom is that the apricot branch only leaned over the wall because the wall is there in the first place.
Oh, interesting.
He is saying affairs and betrayal are inevitable because humanity built a cage around a completely natural flowing impulse.
So if there were no marriage contract, if there were no wall, there wouldn't be any leaning over it.
Exactly. There would just be the natural flow of human relationships coming together when it makes sense and peacefully drifting apart when it doesn't.
So he isn't anti-love by
Yeah.
any means. He's just anti-cage.
That is the perfect way to summarize it. He claims that by trying to lock love down with a legal document and a ring, we actually suffocate and kill it. It's totally consistent with his core rule. Anytime you try to freeze a dynamic, flowing process, you create suffering.
Now, for the listener who might be thinking, okay, this is an interesting thought experiment, but does it actually matter in the real world? Yu Feng raises the stakes incredibly high here.
He really does.
He claims this philosophy isn't just about finding happiness. It is literally about whether you live or die. And he brings up something he calls the Goldbach conjecture of health.
Yes. And for anyone who isn't a massive math nerd, the Goldbach conjecture is a very famous, currently unsolved problem in number theory. It's widely considered to be a foundational truth of mathematics, even though mathematicians haven't fully proven it yet.
So he's using it as a metaphor.
Right. He is stating that he has found the foundational, undeniable mathematical truth of human health.
And what is that truth?
That all disease, every single illness comes exclusively from violating the way of nature.
That is a massive, massive claim to make.
Yeah.
So no germs, no genetic diseases.
He acknowledges that physical pathogens exist, but he views them merely as the cleanup crew.
The cleanup crew.
Yes. He argues that viruses and bacteria only take hold because you have already lowered your frequency by resisting the program. Anger, jealousy, staying up late, stressing over money, all of this creates friction. And disease is just the physical manifestation of that friction.
So in his view, if you were a perfect cucumber, someone totally aligned with your natural script,
Yeah.
you would never get sick.
According to the text, yes. You would live an entirely healthy, vibrant life until your biological clock simply runs out, and then you would die peacefully.
He also ties this concept of alignment to wealth, which honestly surprised me, because usually spiritual texts lean into the idea that money is evil or doesn't matter.
Right, the ascetic approach.
Yeah. But he has a very specific theory on why people, and even entire nations, are poor.
He connects poverty directly to being closed off.
Closed off.
Yes. He actually uses the United States as his prime example here. Now, again, regardless of anyone's current political views, he argues that historically the U.S. became a wealthy superpower, specifically because it was open.
Open to immigrants, open to new technology, open to diverse cultures.
Exactly. Biological and cultural diversity. He contrasts what he calls the open bird, which is active, flying around, and well-fed, with the closed person, who isolates themselves and becomes lazy.
So openness equals abundance.
Yes. He says poverty often stems from a stubborn refusal to step outside and engage with the natural flow of energy.
It goes right back to that follow opportunity rule we talked about earlier. You have to be open enough to actually see the ball coming your way. If you lock all your doors and shut your windows, opportunity literally cannot get inside.
It's all about flow.
It seems like there is a really clear pattern emerging across all these topics. Flow is good, walls are bad. Whether it's a national border wall, a marriage wall, or just a mental wall you build around your own ego.
Flow versus friction. That is the entire philosophy in 3 words.
But look, even if we knock down all our walls and we flow perfectly, eventually we all hit the ultimate wall, the end of the road, death.
The one thing nobody can avoid.
Right. How does the way of nature handle death?
This is actually one of the most comforting sections of the essays. He points out that 99% of people live in absolute terror of death. We view it as this horrible tragedy.
Because it's the ultimate loss of control.
Exactly. But he says if you genuinely trust the cosmic program, you realize death isn't a wall at all. It is just a door opening to a new scene.
It's just the winter arriving after the autumn, completely natural.
He goes so far as to say that fearing death is the ultimate proof that you do not trust the universe. It is like screaming at your GPS because you are approaching your destination.
I love that image so much.
The GPS metaphor is really the best way to wrap your head around his entire worldview.
Let's expand on that. Following the way of nature is like driving with a perfect, infallible GPS.
Think about it this way. You are driving in a chaotic, massive city. There's construction everywhere, one-way streets, traffic jams, people honking at you.
Sounds like a nightmare.
It is. And you don't know the map? If you try to rely on your own limited brain to navigate that chaos, you panic. You make wrong turns.
You grip the steering wheel until your knuckles turn white.
Right back to where we started. But if you simply trust the GPS, you don't actually need to know the whole map. You don't need a 5-year plan.
You just take the next turn.
Exactly. You don't worry about what you have to do 5 miles from now. You just execute the current instruction.
Turn left. Go straight. Wait at the light.
And if you ignore the GPS because you think you can outsmart the traffic,
You get lost, you get totally stressed out, and you probably crash your car.
the way of nature is just the GPS. It already knows where you need to go, and it knows the best route better than your ego does.
So we circle all the way back. We are the cucumbers. We are the passengers in the car following a pre-written script. But I have to ask this, and I think anyone listening is probably wondering the same thing. If the physical world is just this fixed script, if we were just taking directions from the GPS, do we actually have any freedom at all? Or are we just biological robots playing out a simulation?
That is the big existential question. And this is where Shui Feng offers one truly fascinating escape hatch.
An escape pad.
Yes. He admits that in the physical world, the world of mass and gravity and biology, we are completely bound by the script. A human being cannot simply flap their arms and fly. That violates the program.
Right.
But he says humans possess one specific domain where they have absolute godlike freedom.
Well, what is that?
Your imagination, your consciousness.
Oh, wow.
He says that inside your own mind, you can be a king. You can fly through the stars. You can literally hug the sun. You can have a massive harem or live alone on Mars.
Because inside the mind, there are no physical laws.
Exactly. In the realm of imagination, there is no physics, no society, and absolutely no program to violate. It is pure, unfiltered freedom.
That is a really trippy thought to leave us with. that maybe this real physical world we stress out about so much is actually just the cage, and our imagination is the only place we are truly awake and alive.
It certainly puts a totally different spin on daydreaming during a boring meeting. He implies that your inner world is the only place where you are genuinely the creator of your reality.
Well, whether you are a cucumber desperately trying to be a tomato or just someone trying to get through the work week without gripping that steering wheel too hard, I think there is something profound to be said for just stopping the fight against the current.
Just remember the corn. Give yourself the time to actually grow.
I'm definitely going to try and trust the GPS a little more today. That is all the time we have for this deep dive. Thank you so much for listening.